Daniel had 3 days before losing his home. His daughter Lily didn't know they were broke. When the city bus caught fire, Daniel saved a baby and young mother from the flames. Then soldiers surrounded him. The woman he saved was a soldier he had rescued years ago. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Daniel Hayes stared at the eviction notice taped to his apartment door, his heart sinking like a stone. Final notice, 72 hours to vacate. The words blurred as tears filled his eyes. His 5-year-old daughter Lily was at kindergarten, unaware that they might be sleeping in their car by the weekend. Since his wife Sarah died in a car accident 18 months ago, Daniel had been drowning. The medical bills from her final weeks had eaten through their savings. The life insurance barely covered the funeral costs. Now he worked 3 part-time jobs: delivery driver, grocery store clerk, and weekend construction, but it still wasn't enough. Daniel crumpled the notice and shoved it in his pocket. Lily couldn't see this. She had already lost her mother. She couldn't lose her sense of security too. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen, Lily's after-school babysitter. "Daniel, I'm so sorry, but I can't watch Lily anymore. My husband lost his job and we're moving in with my sister. Today is my last day." Daniel leaned against his apartment door and closed his eyes. How much more could one person take? At 3 p.m., Daniel picked up Lily from school. She bounced into his arms, her backpack covered in dinosaur stickers and her smile bright enough to light up the darkest day. "Daddy, I learned about firefighters today. Did you know they save people from burning buildings?" "That's right, sweetheart. They're very brave. Mrs. Peterson said anyone can be a hero if they help people. Even regular dads like you." Daniel forced a smile. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a failure who couldn't even keep a roof over his daughter's head. They walked to the bus stop for Daniel's evening shift at the grocery store. Lily would stay with Mrs. Chen for the last time, doing homework and eating dinner while Daniel worked until midnight. "Daddy, why do you look sad?" Lily asked as they waited for the bus. "I'm not sad, princess. Just thinking about work." "Are you thinking about mommy?" Daniel's throat tightened. "Sometimes. But mostly I'm thinking about how lucky I am to have you." Lily hugged his arm. "Lucky like finding a treasure?" "Luckier than that." The city bus arrived, old and rattling, belching black smoke from its exhaust. Daniel helped Lily up the steep steps, noticing how the driver looked exhausted and the bus seemed to be making strange noises. They sat near the front so Daniel could keep an eye on everything. The bus was crowded with rush-hour passengers, office workers heading home, students with heavy backpacks, elderly people with grocery bags. In the seat across from them sat a young woman with a baby carrier. The infant couldn't be more than 6 months old, sleeping peacefully despite the bus's noisy engine. The mother looked like she was barely 20, with tired eyes and worn clothes that Daniel recognized from his own struggles. "Daddy, look at the baby," Lily whispered. "It's so little." "Babies need lots of sleep to grow big and strong like you," Daniel whispered back. As the bus lurched through downtown traffic, Daniel noticed something wrong. The engine was making louder grinding noises and he could smell something burning, not exhaust but something electrical and sharp. The bus driver kept checking his mirrors nervously, and Daniel saw a thin wisp of smoke coming from somewhere near the front of the bus. "Daddy, what's that smell?" Lily asked, wrinkling her nose. Before Daniel could answer, the smell got stronger. Other passengers started looking around nervously and someone in the back called out, "Is something burning?" The bus driver pulled over to the curb. "Everyone stay calm. I'm going to check the engine." But as soon as the bus stopped, Daniel saw orange flames licking up from underneath the vehicle. This wasn't just an engine problem, the bus was on fire. "Fire! The bus is on fire!" someone screamed. Panic erupted. People jumped from their seats, pushing toward the doors. The elderly passengers moved slowly, confused by the chaos. Children started crying. The bus driver was trying to open the emergency exits, but the main door was jammed. Smoke began filling the bus, making it hard to see and breathe. Daniel grabbed Lily and joined the crowd pushing toward the back emergency door. But in the chaos, he looked back and saw something that made his blood freeze. The young mother with the baby was trapped. Her seat belt was stuck, and she was frantically trying to free herself while protecting her infant. Smoke was getting thicker and flames were spreading along the floor of the bus. Everyone else was focused on escaping. In seconds they would all be outside while the mother and baby burned alive. "Daddy, we have to go," Lily cried, coughing from the smoke. Daniel looked at his daughter's frightened face, then back at the trapped mother and baby. Every instinct told him to save Lily first, to get his own child to safety. But Sarah's voice echoed in his memory, "Daniel, we have to protect the innocent. That's what makes us human." "Hold on, princess," Daniel said, scooping Lily up and pushing through the panicking crowd toward the trapped mother. "I can't get my belt undone," the young mother screamed over the noise of flames and shouting. Smoke was getting thicker by the second. Daniel set Lily down in the aisle. "Sweetie, I need you to cover your nose and mouth with your shirt. Can you do that for Daddy?" Lily nodded, her eyes wide with fear but trusting her father completely. Daniel knelt beside the trapped woman. "What's your name?" "Jessica. Please, you have to save my baby. I'm going to save both of you." Daniel pulled out his pocket knife and cut through the jammed seat belt. "What's the baby's name?" "Michael. He's only 4 months old." The flames were spreading faster now and the smoke was making it hard to breathe. Daniel could hear the back emergency door finally opening and people spilling out onto the street. "Okay, Jessica, I'm going to take Michael first and get him outside. Then I'm coming back for you and Lily." "No. Don't leave me." Daniel looked her in the eyes. "I give you my word. I will not leave you on this bus. But I need to get these babies to safety first." Jessica nodded through her tears and carefully handed Michael to Daniel. The baby was awake now, crying from the smoke and noise. Daniel tucked the infant against his chest and grabbed Lily's hand. "We're going to walk fast toward the back door. Stay low and hold on to my belt." They made their way through the smoke-filled bus. The heat was getting intense, and Daniel could see flames creeping along the walls. His lungs burned with every breath. At the emergency exit, Daniel handed baby Michael to the first person he saw, a businessman who had just escaped. "Take this baby to the paramedics." Daniel shouted over the noise of sirens arriving outside. "Where are you going?" the man called back. "To get the others." Daniel turned back toward the burning bus, pulling Lily with him. But she stopped at the door. "Daddy, no. It's too dangerous." "Sweetheart, there's a lady in there who needs help. You know what Mommy always said about helping people." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "But what if something happens to you?" Daniel knelt down and hugged his daughter tight. Around them, firefighters were arriving and people were screaming for everyone to get away from the bus. "Nothing's going to happen to me. But I can't leave that lady alone. You stay right here with the firefighters, okay? Daddy will be right back." "Promise?" "I promise." Daniel kissed Lily's forehead and ran back into the burning bus. Jessica was still trapped in her seat, now surrounded by flames. The smoke was so thick that Daniel had to crawl on his hands and knees to reach her. "I came back," he shouted. "I thought you left me. I told you I wouldn't." Daniel grabbed Jessica's arm and helped her up. "We have to move now." They stumbled toward the back of the bus, but Daniel realized they weren't going to make it. The flames had spread to block their path to the emergency exit. The windows were too small to climb through. "We're trapped," Jessica screamed. Daniel looked around desperately. The front door was still jammed, the back was blocked by fire, and the smoke was getting so thick he could barely see. That's when he remembered the roof emergency hatch he had noticed earlier. "Up there." Daniel pointed to the small emergency hatch in the bus ceiling. "Can you climb?" "I think so." Daniel boosted Jessica up toward the hatch. She managed to push it open and fresh air poured in. "Climb out and get away from the bus," Daniel yelled. Jessica hesitated. "What about you?" "I'm right behind you." As Jessica climbed through the hatch onto the bus roof, Daniel heard the most terrifying sound of his life, Lily screaming his name from outside. He pulled himself up through the hatch just as the bus windows began exploding from the heat. On the roof, he could see Jessica sliding down the front windshield to safety, and firefighters positioning a ladder. But Daniel also saw something that made his heart stop. Lily had broken away from the firefighters and was running toward the burning bus, screaming for her daddy. Without thinking, Daniel jumped down from the bus roof, landing hard on the pavement. Ignoring the pain shooting through his ankle, he ran toward Lily and scooped her up just as the bus fuel tank exploded behind them. The blast knocked Daniel forward, and he curled his body around Lily to protect her from the debris raining down around them. When the noise stopped and Daniel looked up, he found himself surrounded by firefighters, paramedics, and a growing crowd of people. But what he noticed most were the men in military uniforms pushing through the crowd toward him. "Sir, are you injured?" A paramedic knelt beside Daniel, checking his cuts and burns. "I'm okay. Is my daughter hurt? Is the baby okay?" "Everyone's fine thanks to you." The paramedic helped Daniel sit up. "You've got some burns and cuts but nothing serious. Your daughter wasn't hurt at all." Lily threw her arms around Daniel's neck. "Daddy, you scared me. But you saved the baby and the lady." We all made it out, Princess. That's what matters. As the paramedic bandaged Daniel's arms, he became aware of the crowd that had gathered. News crews were arriving, police were taking statements, and people were pointing at him and talking. But what caught his attention were the 6 soldiers in dress uniforms standing nearby. They weren't part of the emergency response. They seemed to be waiting for something. A tall man with silver hair and general stars on his uniform approached Daniel. "Mr. Hayes, I'm General Robert Mitchell. Could I speak with you privately?" Daniel was confused. "I think there's been some mistake. I don't know anything about military matters." "There's no mistake." The general's expression was serious but kind. "We need to talk." While the paramedics finished treating Daniel's minor injuries, General Mitchell explained why he was there. "Mr. Hayes, do you remember serving in Afghanistan 8 years ago?" Daniel's stomach dropped. "Yes, sir. I was a combat medic with the 101st Airborne. You were awarded the Bronze Star for saving 3 soldiers under enemy fire." "That was a long time ago." Daniel glanced at Lily, who was being entertained by a friendly police officer. "I don't like to talk about the war around my daughter." "I understand. But Mr. Hayes, do you remember Private Jessica Martinez? You saved her life during a mortar attack in Kandahar." Daniel's mind raced back to that terrible day. A young female soldier, barely 19, trapped under debris while enemy shells fell around them. He had crawled through the rubble to reach her, then carried her to safety while bullets flew overhead. "Jessica. Yes, I remember. She was badly hurt. She made a full recovery thanks to you. Mr. Hayes, the young woman you just saved from this bus is Jessica Martinez. She recognized you even after all these years." Daniel stared at the general in shock. "That's impossible. The odds of that happening are astronomical." "But it happened." General Mitchell gestured toward the ambulance where Jessica was being treated. "She called our base as soon as the paramedics let her use a phone. She told us that the same man who saved her life in Afghanistan just saved her and her baby from a burning bus." Daniel looked over at Jessica, who waved at him from the ambulance. Even through the smoke stains and stress, he could see the young soldier he had pulled from the rubble years ago. "She has a baby now," Daniel said softly. "Michael. Named after her grandfather, who was also a veteran." General Mitchell sat down beside Daniel. "Mr. Hayes, Jessica told us about your current situation. The financial difficulties, the eviction notice." Daniel's face burned with embarrassment. "I don't need charity, General. This isn't charity. This is the Army taking care of its own." The general handed Daniel an envelope. "Inside you'll find orders for your reinstatement as a combat medic with full rank and benefits. The Army needs experienced medics, and you've proven twice now that you're willing to risk your life to save others." Daniel opened the envelope with shaking hands. The paperwork was official, complete, and offered a signing bonus that would solve all his financial problems immediately. "I don't understand. I've been out for 6 years. Your skills are exactly what we need for our medical training programs. You'd be stationed right here in the city training new medics. Regular hours, excellent pay, full medical and dental coverage, and a housing allowance." Lily ran over and climbed into Daniel's lap. "Daddy, that nice police lady said you're a hero. She said you saved a baby." General Mitchell smiled at Lily. "Your daddy has been saving lives for a long time, young lady. He's one of the bravest men I've ever met." "I know," Lily said proudly. "He's my daddy." 1 week later, Daniel stood in his new Army uniform, watching Lily play in the backyard of their new house on the military base. The transformation had been incredible, from facing eviction to having a stable home, steady income, and meaningful work. Jessica visited every afternoon with baby Michael. The two families had formed an unlikely bond, united by their shared experiences and Daniel's acts of heroism. "I still can't believe it," Jessica said, sitting on the porch while Michael napped in his carrier. "Of all the buses in the city, I end up on the same one as the man who saved my life in Afghanistan." "Sarah always said there are no coincidences," Daniel replied, referring to his late wife. "Maybe she was looking out for all of us." Lily was teaching some neighborhood children how to play her favorite game, taking her role as the big sister very seriously. Daniel marveled at how quickly she had adapted to their new life. "Miss Jessica," Lily called out, "can Michael play with us when he gets bigger?" "Of course, sweetie. You'll be like his big sister." Daniel watched the children play and thought about the chain of events that had brought them here. If he hadn't been on that specific bus, if he hadn't noticed Jessica was trapped, if he hadn't been brave enough to go back. "Do you ever regret getting out of the Army the first time?" Jessica asked. "No. I needed those years with Sarah and Lily. Being a civilian taught me things about life that military service couldn't. Daniel paused. But I'm ready to serve again. This time, I understand what I'm really fighting for. The next morning, Daniel reported to his new assignment at the medical training facility. His job was to teach new Army medics how to save lives under pressure, how to make split-second decisions, and how to stay calm in chaos. His first class consisted of 20 young soldiers, all eager to learn but nervous about their responsibilities. Who can tell me the most important quality in a combat medic? Daniel asked. A young private raised his hand. Medical knowledge? Good guess, but no. Physical strength? Suggested another. Daniel shook his head. The most important quality is the willingness to risk your own life to save others. Everything else, the medical training, the physical conditioning, the equipment, means nothing if you don't have the courage to act when someone needs you. He told them about Afghanistan, about pulling Jessica from the rubble while explosions shook the ground around them. He told them about the bus fire, about going back into the flames because leaving Jessica behind wasn't an option. Heroes aren't fearless, Daniel explained. Heroes are people who feel the fear and act anyway because someone's life depends on it. After class, Daniel walked through the base to pick up Lily from the on-base childcare center. The facility was excellent, with trained staff and programs that challenged children academically while keeping them safe and happy. Daddy? Lily ran to him with a drawing in her hand. Look what I made. The picture showed a bus with flames around it, and a stick figure man carrying a baby and holding a little girl's hand. Above them, another stick figure with wings watched over them. Is that Mommy? Daniel asked, pointing to the winged figure. Wow. She's making sure you stay safe when you help people. Daniel knelt down and hugged his daughter. What do you think about Daddy being a soldier again? I think it's good. You can teach other soldiers how to be brave like you. And you're okay living on the base? I love it. There are so many kids to play with and everyone's daddy and mommy help protect people. Lily looked up at him seriously. Daddy, am I going to be a soldier when I grow up? You can be anything you want to be, princess. Soldier, doctor, teacher, artist, whatever makes you happy. I want to help people like you do. Maybe I'll be a doctor and fix people who get hurt. Daniel smiled. I think you'd be an excellent doctor. 6 months after the bus incident, Daniel's life had stabilized in ways he never thought possible. His work training new medics was rewarding, Lily was thriving in her new school, and their friendship with Jessica and Michael had become like family. But the most unexpected development was the attention their story had received. News outlets had covered the dramatic rescue, and Daniel had been asked to speak at veterans events and safety conferences. I don't understand why people want to hear from me, Daniel told Jessica as they watched their children play together. I just did what anyone would do. That's exactly why they want to hear from you, Jessica replied. You don't think you're special. You just think helping people is normal. Isn't it? Jessica laughed. Daniel, most people would have evacuated the bus and been grateful to survive. You went back into the flames for someone you barely knew. Someone I had saved before, as it turned out. You didn't know that at the time. You just saw someone who needed help. That weekend, Daniel was invited to speak at a conference for emergency responders. The auditorium was filled with firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and military personnel, people who risked their lives every day to protect others. 8 years ago in Afghanistan, Daniel began, I pulled a young soldier named Jessica Martinez from the rubble of a bombed building. Last month, I found myself pulling that same woman and her baby from a burning bus. He paused, looking out at the audience of everyday heroes. People have asked me if I believe in fate, if I think there was some cosmic reason I was on that bus. I don't know about fate, but I know this, we are all connected. The person you save today might save someone else tomorrow. The kindness you show might inspire someone else to be kind. Daniel's voice grew stronger as he continued. Being a hero isn't about special powers or perfect timing. It's about recognizing that other people's lives matter as much as your own. It's about understanding that sometimes you have to risk your own safety to protect someone who can't protect themselves. He gestured toward the audience. Everyone in this room has made that choice. You've all decided that serving others is more important than serving yourself. You are all heroes whether you realize it or not. After his speech, Daniel was approached by dozens of people who wanted to share their own stories. A firefighter who had rescued children from a house fire. A police officer who had talked a suicidal man off a bridge. A paramedic who had performed CPR for 20 minutes to save someone's grandfather. Your story gives us hope, one young firefighter told Daniel. It reminds us why we do this job. 1 year after the bus fire, Daniel received news that changed everything again. Jessica had been accepted into medical school with a full scholarship, inspired by Daniel's example to dedicate her life to saving others. "I want to be a trauma surgeon," she told Daniel and Lily over Sunday dinner. "I want to help people the way you helped me." "That's wonderful," Daniel said. "Michael will be so proud of his mom. I couldn't have done it without your example. You showed me that surviving isn't enough, we have to live in a way that honors the people who saved us." Lily, now 6 and starting first grade, had absorbed these conversations about service and sacrifice. She often talked about becoming a doctor or a soldier, but always with the goal of helping people. "Daddy," she said one evening as Daniel tucked her into bed, "do you miss Mommy?" "Every day, sweetheart. But I think she would be proud of the life we've built. I think she sent you to save Miss Jessica and baby Michael." Daniel considered this. "Why do you think that?" "Because Mommy always said we should take care of each other. Maybe she knew they needed us." Daniel kissed Lily's forehead. "Maybe you're right, Princess. Maybe she did." As Lily drifted off to sleep, Daniel reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The darkest period of his life, losing Sarah, facing financial ruin, feeling like a failure, had led to this moment of peace and purpose. His work training new medics was expanding. The Army had asked him to develop new programs based on his civilian emergency response experience. He was helping create a bridge between military medical training and civilian first aid, teaching soldiers skills they could use both in combat and in their communities after service. "The goal," Daniel explained to his latest class of trainees, "is to create medics who can save lives anywhere, anytime. In a war zone, on a city street, in their own neighborhoods." One young soldier raised her hand. "Sir, how do you deal with the fear? What if you freeze up when someone needs help?" Daniel thought about standing outside that burning bus, knowing that going back inside could mean leaving Lily without a father. "Fear is normal," he said. "Fear means you understand the danger. But courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of fear because someone's life depends on it." He paused, looking at each young face in the classroom. "Every one of you has the capacity to be a hero. You just have to be willing to put someone else's need before your own fear." 2 years later, Daniel stood in the same auditorium where he had first spoken to emergency responders, but this time he wasn't alone. Jessica, now in her second year of medical school, was sharing the stage with him. "2 years ago," Jessica told the audience, "Daniel Hayes saved my life for the second time. But the real miracle isn't that he happened to be on my bus, it's what happened after." She gestured toward the audience, where several of Daniel's former trainees sat in uniform. "Daniel has trained over 200 combat medics in the past 2 years. Those medics have gone on to save countless lives, both in military service and in their civilian communities. One of them rescued a family from a car accident last month. Another performed CPR on a heart attack victim at a grocery store." Jessica's voice grew emotional. "My baby Michael is alive because Daniel was willing to run into a burning bus. But how many other children are alive because Daniel trained the medics who saved them? How many families are whole because someone learned courage from his example?" Daniel felt proud but also humbled. He had never thought about the ripple effect of his training, the way his lessons about courage and service would spread through his students to touch lives he would never know about. After the presentation, Daniel and Jessica were approached by a reporter who had been following their story. "Mr. Hayes, you've become something of a symbol for everyday heroism. How does that feel?" Daniel glanced at Jessica, then at Lily, who was sitting in the front row drawing pictures while she waited for him. "I don't think of myself as a symbol. I'm just a dad who wants to make sure his daughter grows up in a world where people take care of each other." "What's next for you?" "More training, more teaching. The Army is expanding our program to work with civilian first responders. We want to create a network of people who know how to act in emergencies." The reporter turned to Jessica. "And you?" "Medical school must be demanding with a young child." "It is, but Daniel showed me that single parents can do extraordinary things when they have support and purpose. I want to be a trauma surgeon so I can save lives the way he saved mine." That evening, as Daniel, Lily, Jessica, and Michael shared dinner at their favorite restaurant, Lily made an announcement. "I've decided what I want to be when I grow up." "What's that, Princess?" Daniel asked. "A teacher. I want to teach kids how to be brave and help people just like you teach the soldiers." Daniel felt tears in his eyes. His daughter had learned the most important lesson of all, that heroism isn't about glory or recognition, but about passing on the willingness to serve others. "I think you'll be an excellent teacher," he said. "The best," Jessica added. "Just like your daddy." 5 years after the bus fire, Daniel stood before his largest audience yet, a gathering of 500 emergency responders from across the country. But this time he had special guests with him. Lily, now 10, had written an essay about heroism that had won a national contest. Jessica, now Dr. Martinez, had graduated medical school and was completing her surgery residency. And sitting in the front row were 20 of Daniel's former students, now experienced medics serving around the world. 5 years ago, Daniel began, I was a struggling single father who thought I had failed at everything that mattered. I couldn't pay my bills, couldn't provide stability for my daughter, and felt like I had nothing to offer the world. He paused, looking at the faces in the audience. Then a bus caught fire and I had to make a choice. Save myself and my daughter or risk our lives for strangers who needed help. In that moment, I learned that heroism isn't about being fearless or perfect. It's about choosing to act when action is needed. Daniel gestured toward his former students. These men and women have taken that lesson and multiplied it. They've saved lives in combat, in natural disasters, in everyday emergencies. They've proven that courage is contagious, that one person's willingness to serve can inspire dozens of others to serve. Lily stepped up to the microphone, confident despite her young age. My daddy taught me that heroes aren't special people. They're ordinary people who decide that helping others is more important than being safe. Everyone can be a hero if they just try. She looked directly at the audience. My mommy died when I was little and my daddy and I almost lost our home. But when my daddy saved Miss Jessica and baby Michael, everything changed. Not because we got rewards but because my daddy remembered who he really was, someone who helps people. The audience was completely silent, moved by the wisdom of a 10-year-old who had learned life's most important lessons through watching her father's courage. Dr. Jessica Martinez took the microphone next. Daniel Hayes has saved my life twice. Once in Afghanistan, once on a city bus. But the most important thing he saved was my faith in humanity. He showed me that good people still exist, that courage still matters, and that one person's actions can change the world. She gestured toward Michael, now 5 years old and playing quietly with toys in the front row. My son will grow up knowing that strangers risked their lives to save him. He'll grow up understanding that we have a responsibility to protect each other. That's Daniel's real legacy, not just the lives he saved, but the lessons he taught about what it means to be human. After the presentation, as the crowd dispersed and awards were presented, Daniel found himself surrounded by his extended family: Lily, Jessica, Michael, his former students, and dozens of people whose lives had been touched by his story. But the moment that mattered most came when a young man in a firefighter's uniform approached him. Mr. Hayes, you don't know me, but I was on that bus 5 years ago. I was 17, scared, and I ran off as soon as I could. Watching you go back for those people changed my life. That's why I became a firefighter. Daniel shook the young man's hand. What's your name? Tommy Martinez. No relation to Dr. Martinez, just a coincidence. I've saved 12 people from fires in the past 3 years. Every time I run into a burning building, I think about you going back into that bus. Daniel felt overwhelmed with emotion. You've saved 12 people? Because you showed me that running toward danger is sometimes the right thing to do. As the evening ended and they all headed home, Lily took Daniel's hand. Daddy, are you happy? Daniel looked around at their group, Jessica carrying a sleeping Michael, his former students talking and laughing together, and Lily skipping beside him with absolute trust that her daddy would always be there to protect her. Yeah, princess. I'm very happy. Good. Because you deserve to be happy. Heroes should get happy endings. Daniel smiled, thinking about Sarah and how proud she would be of the family they had built, the lives they had touched, and the courage they had shared with the world. Yes, he said, squeezing Lily's hand. Heroes should get happy endings. 10 years after the bus fire, Daniel Hayes stood at the podium of the newly opened Hayes Center for Emergency Response Training. The facility, funded by donations from people who had been inspired by his story, would train first responders from across the country. Lily, now 15 and volunteering as a junior instructor, introduced her father to the audience. 10 years ago, my dad was just a single father trying to make ends meet. Today, he's trained over 1,000 emergency responders who have gone on to save countless lives. But to me, he's still just my dad, the man who taught me that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose to help others. Dr. Jessica Martinez sat in the front row with her husband and 2 children, including Michael, now 10. Her trauma surgery skills had saved hundreds of lives, and she credited Daniel's example with inspiring her career. Tommy Martinez, now a fire captain, was there with his own team of firefighters. The scared teenager who had run from the burning bus was now a leader who ran toward danger to save others. As Daniel looked out at the audience filled with paramedics, firefighters, police officers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens who had been inspired to learn first aid and emergency response, he thought about the chain reaction that had started with one moment of courage. Heroism, Daniel said, is not a single act. It's a way of living that says other people matter as much as we do. It's the understanding that we are all connected, that someone else's child is as precious as our own child. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. 10 years ago, I thought I was just saving two strangers from a fire. I didn't know I was starting a movement. I didn't know that one act of courage would inspire thousands of others to act courageously. Daniel looked directly at Lily, who beamed at him with pride. But that's how heroism works. It multiplies. It spreads. One person's willingness to risk their safety for others creates a ripple effect that touches lives for generations. As the ceremony ended and people mingled, sharing their own stories of courage and service, Daniel reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them all together. From a desperate single father facing eviction to the leader of a national movement promoting everyday heroism, Daniel's life had been transformed by one simple choice: to put someone else's need before his own fear. And as he watched Lily teaching a group of young people how to perform CPR, he knew that the most important part of his legacy wasn't the awards or recognition, but the understanding that heroism lives in all of us, waiting for the moment when we choose to act with courage and compassion. The bus may have burned 10 years ago, but the fire of human courage it ignited would burn forever, lighting the way for future heroes who understood that sometimes the most important thing you can do is risk everything to save someone else. Because that's what heroes do. They show up. They act. They prove that love is stronger than fear, and that ordinary people can change the world, one act of courage at a time.